Welcome, students. In today's video, we will be looking at the Grade 5 Language Arts Performance Task, June 2023. Let's look at the instructions. All right, so the general instruction says this task has two parts. Part 1 has 4 questions. In Part 2, you will be required to write an essay. All right, so there are 2 sources. You're to read the sources carefully, then use them to answer the questions in Part 1, as well as to write your essay in Part 2. Okay, so here is the first source. All right, so the introduction to the task says that a student was asked to conduct a research on the importance of eating breakfast in the mornings. She found 2 sources. Source 1 is a table showing the effect of eating breakfast in the morning on a group of students, and source 2 is an article. So here's source 1, it's a table. I'm going to show the entire table first, and then I will look at it all together. So here's a table which shows how often the headings, how often students eat breakfast, the percentage of students who eat breakfast, types of food eaten, general mood throughout the day, and the performance at school. So it's pretty much like the introduction says, it's showing the effect of eating breakfast in the morning on a group of students. So it shows pretty much by percentage how many students have eaten breakfast, never, or have never eaten breakfast, or students who sometimes eat breakfast, or students who always eat breakfast, and the effect that it has, as well as the type of food that they eat when they eat breakfast. Let me make this a little bigger now so we can explore each part. Okay, so students who never eat breakfast, that's 7% of students. So of course there's no food they're eating. Their general mood throughout the day is sleepy, and their performance at school is poor. When students sometimes eat breakfast, that is 56% of the students, they usually eat sausage, eggs, breadfruit, fried plantain, fried dumplings, fruits, porridge. Their general mood throughout the day, moody, and their performance at school is fairly good. For students who always eat breakfast, which is 37% of the students, and what they usually eat includes callaloo, saltfish fritters, eggs, sardine, green bananas, fruits, nuts, sandwich. Their general mood is that they're alert and their performance at school is good. Okay, so that's the first source. We'll now go look at the second source, and of course it's an article, and I'll read. Let me make it a little bigger if possible. Okay. All right, so here's source 2. Breakfast. When you think about breakfast, you probably think about food that is yummy in your tummies. But breakfast is so much more than eating delicious food. A healthy breakfast gives you the energy you need to get things done throughout the day. It also helps you focus at school or work. No wonder it's the most important meal of the day. Think about it. If your last meal before bed was at 9 p.m. and you woke up at 5 a.m. the next day, you have been fasting for 8 hours. That's a long time. So when you eat something in the morning, you have broken your fasting, hence the name breakfast. Breakfast also gives you a chance to get in some vitamins and nutrients from healthy food groups like dairy, grain, and fruits. If you don't eat breakfast, you aren't likely to get all of the nutrients your body needs at that time of the day. Plus, the body absorbs food faster when eaten in the morning. So that's another reason to include healthy foods in your breakfast. Sometimes you may not feel like eating breakfast in the morning, but it's important that you do. Your growing bodies need nutrients and fuel. If you don't eat breakfast in the morning, you may have a harder time focusing and may become more tired in school. You may also feel grumpy or restless. And it isn't just your mood that can suffer. Your schoolwork may be affected too. One study shows that students who ate breakfast were more likely to take part in extracurricular activities. If you don't feel like eating in the morning, while at home, pack something you can have on the way to school. Choose a fruit, nuts, or an egg sandwich. That's a sure way to break the fasting in a healthy and convenient way. So there we have it, the table that was source 1 and the article that was source 2. Now let's go look at the tasks. In part 1, it says that you are to, let's read what it says. According to source 1, what percentage of students never eat breakfast? So of course it tells us where to go look for the information. So let's go quickly back to source 1 to see what percentage of students never eat breakfast. And of course, source 1 is the table, so that's where we'll go to get this information. So we see the different percentages there. And for students who never eat breakfast, the percentage is 7%. So let's put that in. So that's 7. %7 of students never eat breakfast. All right, so there you have it. That's the answer. Source 2, the phrase fasting for 8 hours means, okay, so let's go to source 2 quickly to see what that means. Where does it talk about that? Okay, so here is where you have the information about you have been fasting for 8 hours. So it says if your last meal before bed was at 9 p.m. and you woke at 5 a.m. the next day, you have been fasting for 8 hours. So what does it mean? So what does it mean? Let's go back to the question. The phrase fasting for 8 hours means, so fasting for 8 hours means that you have gone without eating for 8 hours. And of course, there might be different variations for what I have typed. You don't necessarily have to type it in this way, but of course, that's what it means, right? You have gone without eating or possibly drinking, okay? No food for 8 hours. Let's go to question 3. Question 3 says you're going to read the 3 questions below, then shade the option that indicates the source from which the answer may be found. All right, so the question A, which source or sources provides evidence of the effect that eating breakfast can have on students? Is it source 1 only, source 2 only, or both sources? Okay, which source or sources provides evidence of the effects? And I'm going to go quickly, but of course, you would have read both. And students, if you need a copy of this paper, though, you can request a copy of this paper in the comment section and I will send it to you. So you can read at your own leisure. Okay. So of course we can see evidence of, let's go back to the question. All right, it says, just to be sure, which source provides evidence of the effects? Of course, table 1 was all about showing the effects, okay? Because that's what the table says, showing the effect of eating breakfast. So of course, it is evident in table 1. And then of course, in table 2, okay, it also, sorry, not table 2, the article, the second source, it also shows the effects that you can have. It has on your mood and how you feel and how your schoolwork would be affected and your mood and all of that. So both sources would provide evidence of that. So I'm going to say both sources. So both sources. It says shade. I'm trying to shade it in. All right, let's get to the next question. Which source has information that suggests that most students eat breakfast in the morning? So which source or sources has information that suggests that most students eat breakfast in the morning? All right, so let's look at the two sources to see which one suggests that most students eat breakfast in the morning. So source 2 is closer. Does it tell us anything about most students or few students or a number of students? I'm not seeing anything that indicates. It just talks about if students eat or if students don't eat breakfast, what can happen. But it didn't tell us anything about, numbers, right? But in source 1, it shows us, of course, based on the numbers here, 56% of students ate breakfast sometimes and 37% of students always. All right, it was only 7% that never ate breakfast. So this one, of course, provides evidence of the suggestion that most students would eat breakfast in the morning. So that would be source 1. All right. Nothing was mentioned in source 2, but whether, the statistics, no statistics was given, right? So it would be source 1. Now, which source uses cause and effect as a text feature? All right. So of course you'd have to know what text features are. And of course, these are like when they use headings or tables, diagrams, pictures. Sometimes they make some parts of the text bold, right? Because what they're trying to do is draw attention to that specific part of the article or source, right? And gives you direct information to look at. So sometimes the text might be in bold writing. As I said, they use headings and so on to give us specific or more detailed information. So which source use cause and effect as a text feature? All right, so let's go back. All right, so in the second article, there's nothing, of course, it does talk about the effect, but it's wasn't highlighted specifically in source 2. Whereas in source 1, the entire table was showing pretty much as the table even suggests, it says table showing the effect. So of course, source 1 basically gives us that the main text feature of this source where it shows us the effect, number of students who eat breakfast and the effect it has on them. So this clearly outlined as it relates to what question was this again? Question part C of this section, right? Which source uses cause and effect. And I'm going to say source 1 only. All right, as a text feature. It didn't just stop at saying which source uses cause and effect. It says as a text feature. So it was very specific. And that's the reason I'm choosing 1 only. Of course, there was some effect of eating breakfast or not eating breakfast in source 2, but they didn't necessarily use that as a text feature. Okay, so you can do some research on what text features are to see, compare to see what I have here with what you think might be correct. Okay, so we are now at question 4, which says write 2 pieces of evidence, one from source 1 and one from source 2, which support the idea that eating breakfast can affect your mood. So let's look at source 1 first to see if there's any evidence, right? And of course, there should be evidence there. That's why they're telling us to go there. So in source 1, we're going to be looking to see one piece of evidence that supports the idea that eating breakfast can affect your mood. All right, so in source 1, let's go back to source 1. All right, so the effect on your mood, of course, so we have different, so in this section here talks about the general mood throughout the day. So how it affects your mood, right? When you never eat breakfast, you're sleepy. So these are some of the options that you could have. Sometimes you are moody, and if you always eat breakfast, you are alert. Okay, so that's how it affects your mood. So you might be sleepy, moody, or alert. Okay, so I'm going to go with always eating breakfast makes you alert. So I'm going to type that in. And of course, there are different options. This is not the only answer, students. Okay. So let me type it in. So I'm going to say, according to, let me put that in capital. According to source 1, eating breakfast makes you alert at school. Okay, as I said, guys, all the different options there, right? You could have selected any of them because, of course, that affects your mood. Whether it makes you moody or sleepy, that's all having to do with your mood. Okay, so any of those options would have worked, right? Because even if it says never eat breakfast, right, that's still showing that if you don't eat breakfast, this is how your mood is affected. If you eat breakfast or not eat breakfast, that's how your mood is affected. All right, so in source 2, let's go back to source 2, look to see what the evidence of that is. So source 2 says, all right, so in this section, this is where you would perhaps find the information. Okay, this section right here. All right, so it says if you don't eat breakfast, you'll have a hard time focusing and may become more tired. You may also feel grumpy or restless, and it's not just your mood that suffers. So all those things we're talking about your mood, right? If you don't eat breakfast, you're going to have a hard time focusing, and you may become tired, and you may also feel grumpy. So those are things that, those are things that would have something to do with your mood. So I'm going to select grumpy or restless. Okay, so I'm going to select that part of it to use as my evidence. And of course, guys, however I write may not necessarily be how you write it, but of course, as long as you have the necessary information, then you should be fine. According to source 2, you may feel grumpy or restless when you do not eat breakfast. Okay, that's that for that. You could have selected something else. That's what I choose to write here. All right, so let's go to the other part, which is the essay. All right, so let's look at the instruction first. It says, write an essay in which you explain 3 reasons why it is important to eat breakfast in the mornings. Your essay must include evidence from both sources as well as your own experiences. So notice they have highlighted 3, okay? You must explain 3 reasons. And it must include evidence from both sources. So you have to use evidence from source 1 and source 2, as well as your own experiences. All right, so it says read the information below about what to include in your essay, then begin your work. When you write your essay, remember it should have an introduction and a conclusion. Stay on topic. Use details from both sources to support your opinions. Give details from the sources in your own words. Follow the rules of writing, spelling, punctuation, and grammar usage. So, of course, you're going to be explaining 3 reasons. So, in addition to your introduction and your conclusion, right? Your introduction would be in your first paragraph. Then, for each of those 3 reasons, you would need 3 separate paragraphs, okay? Remember, you have to organize your work so that it's clear, okay? So you're having your introduction first, then your first reason would be in paragraph 1. Not paragraph 1 would be in your paragraph, your first paragraph after your introduction. The next paragraph would be your second reason, and then your third, and then you end with your conclusion. As they said, make sure you provide details from both sources, and you're to give the details from the sources in your own words. Make sure your spelling and punctuation, all of those, make sure those are on point, and make sure you stay on topic. All right, so that's what your essay would be about. So what I've done, in the interest of time, I'm not going to sit here and write an essay. Okay, so what I've done is I'm going to show you a sample of what your essay could look like. Of course, I put the different headings there so you can see my first reason, second reason, third reason, and so on. But of course, you would not have those headings in your essay. All right. So of course, you start with an introduction. And again, guys, your introduction doesn't have to be how I write my introduction. All right. You can write yours as long as you have something to grab the attention, or just something that gives us an idea of what you're going to be writing about and how you plan to proceed, then you should be fine. All right, so we're talking about the importance of eating breakfast. And remember, we're going to be giving 3 reasons, right? So my introduction, breakfast is often called the most important meal of the day, and for good reason. It provides, eating a healthy breakfast each morning provides several key benefits that can help students succeed in school and feel better throughout the day. So of course, my first reason is about improving mood and alertness. So of course, remember guys, that heading will not be there. I'm just showing you what, I put in each of my paragraphs, but it would have started, the paragraph would have started one of the most important reasons. So that would have been my indicator there by saying one of the most. And then when I get to my second paragraph, I say another reason. So that would give you an idea of the different reasons, the different things I'm talking about. Okay. So the first reason says, and pay attention to how we indicate the sources from which we are taking the information adding to our essay, and also how you incorporate your own experiences. Okay, and again, guys, this is just a sample, right? So one of the most important reasons to eat breakfast is that it improves your mood and makes you more alert during the day. According to source 1, students who always eat breakfast tend to be more alert and perform better in school. In contrast, those who skip breakfast often feel sleepy and moody throughout the day. From my own experience, and this is where now you add your own experience, okay? I noticed that on days when I skip breakfast, I feel tired and grumpy, make it harder to concentrate on my schoolwork. All right, and I get to my second point, which is that it provides the essential nutrients. Another reason to eat breakfast is that it provides essential nutrients that your body needs. Source 2 explains that breakfast is a chance to get important vitamins and nutrients from healthy food groups like dairy, grain, and fruits. If you skip breakfast, you may not get all the nutrients your body needs. For example, I always eat a bowl of oatmeal with fruits for breakfast, which gives me energy and helps me stay focused until lunchtime. All right, and here's my third reason. It boosts energy and performance. Eating breakfast boosts your energy levels and improves your performance at school. Source 2 mentions that a healthy breakfast gives you the energy you need to get things done throughout the day. It also helps you focus better at school or work. I remember when I had a big test one morning, I ate a nutritious breakfast with eggs, toast, and a banana. I felt full of energy and did very well on the test because I could concentrate better. And here's the conclusion. In conclusion, eating breakfast is essential for improving your mood, providing necessary nutrients, and boosting your energy and performance. Make sure to start your day with a healthy breakfast to stay alert, get the nutrients you need, and perform your best at school. So you see the conclusion pretty much gives a summary of what was stated before, usually, pretty much what you would have highlighted in your introduction. And so it pretty much ends with telling you, okay, since they have highlighted these, right, make sure you start your day with a healthy breakfast to, of course, stay alert, as I said, repeating the reasons that you gave in your introduction. All right, so there you have it, guys. Hope for those who will be sitting this exam soon, I hope you do extremely well. Okay, just make sure that you pay attention to the information in the sources, and of course, try to find an example, your own experience. Usually the essays would ask you for that. So even if you can't think of something, for example, if you're a student who never eats breakfast, but of course, based on what this article is saying, what happens if you eat breakfast, then you could still find, make something up, right? With an experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be your own experience, but it has to be something that is relatable and you put it as your own. All right. So thanks again. Make sure to subscribe. And as I said, guys, all these papers, if you need copies, you can always message me in the comment section, or I may put my telephone number on one of the papers, so you can always WhatsApp me for copies of these papers. Or if you need extra lessons too, I provide group classes as well as private sessions. All right, so as I always say, I'll see you in the next video.